Hello there, and welcome back to this channel about all things psychology, wellness, and self love and loving others with purpose and care. So, my name is Tamara, just as a recap, and I'm a psychologist from South Africa. Today's video is a really exciting one for me, as this is something I'm really passionate about in helping people learn to listen to one another and themselves, because it has the total capacity to change societies, to rebuild them from the ground up, to save relationships, to rebuild whole family structures if we just learn to attune ourselves to what other people need and just listen to them. So, the previous video was looking at the difference between self-regulation, regulating one's own emotions, and a slight introduction into co-regulation, which pretty much starts in infancy, where we learn how to regulate our feelings with a caregiver that is available and present and reliable, and that doesn't shun our emotions. So important, because when we do that and we really sit with someone's feelings, they feel heard, they feel validated, they regulate their nervous system and their thought process and all of their feelings, and they get out of it. They get out of that thunderstorm that they have inside of them, and they can move forward. So here's the critical component, is if you came from an environment where that was not taught or modeled, then you pretty much are walking around this life trying to fix things or use practical strategies to help move someone as quickly away from that thunderstorm as possible, when in fact, the only way out is through. We actually have to help people just ride the storm. We don't really need to do as much as we think we do practically, because people have within them the inherent capacity to self-heal. What they do need sometimes is a professional, an objective person to help understand and really look at the barriers inside them as to why perhaps they self-sabotage or self-destruct. But in essence, it is important to just listen to people and support them and love them, and they will figure things out for themselves. And that is in a non-professional sphere. So that is if you are married to somebody or have a sibling or a parent, is if we just mirror people and have empathy for them, people will find their own way. So how do we do that? How do we move into how to self-regulate with another person? How do we co-regulate? Is pretty much the same mirroring aspect that we were speaking about in the previous video. You have to do it with somebody else. What does this entail? It entails completely suspending your own internal view of the problem they're presenting and just listening. Now that's a hard one, right? Because if you came from an environment where all you know what to do is to fix and to run from feelings, then this is going to feel really uncomfortable for you. So if someone comes to you and says something to you and you can see there's a clear answer to this that you would do in your own life, you would give that advice, and what does it do to the other person? It makes them feel dismissed. At times, maybe 1 to 5% of the time, when someone's really upset and they want you to hear them, they want advice. But the majority of cases, they want to be heard. They want to be validated. They want to be told that what they're feeling is true and correct. Not that they're blowing things out of proportion or they're making a big deal out of something, but actually they're right to feel the way they do. And of course, and that you feel really bad for them, or mirror whatever the emotion is that you feel. You've got to put yourself in the perspective of the other person. Have empathy. Now, there's this incredible film called Inside Out. It's an animation. It's not only for children, it's for adults as well. And it outlines the 5 main emotions that we have, apart from other aspects of the film. And there's one particular scene that is so powerful. And I'm going to link it in the description below to explain this kind of process of not fixing things or prettying them up when someone is in distress, but just listening. So we have the main protagonist, who is Joy, the happy emotion. And she tries to cheer up Bing Bong, who's this fictional character that the little girl had as a child, like a play friend. And he's really upset because this child is growing up and forgetting him. So what does Joy do? She tries to cheer him up. She tries to fix the problem. And guess what happens to her? She realizes that it's ineffectual, that she's trying to help Bing Bong and he's just not getting better. So she gets frustrated. The other amazing character, which, in many psychotherapy forums, we believe that the sadness was the main protagonist, just, saved the whole film, is sadness came and showed total empathy and started to mirror the feeling that Bing Bong was showing. So she started to say, that sounds really sad and I'm so sorry that happened. And Bing Bong then appeared to get worse. So Joy started saying, what are you doing? Look at what you're doing. You're making it worse. And what happened is through the empathic process, through listening, through suspending one's own thoughts and opinions, and just being present and bearing witness to this beautiful character, Bing Bong self-regulated. And you see it in the clip. You see it takes a few minutes. Remember that emotion very quickly regulates if we allow it. If we create a safe space to such an extent that there is no interference with thoughts, invalidating statements, and things like that. So I hope that this was a little bit of a kind of a teaser or an introduction into how we can start co-regulating each other's thoughts, feelings, and emotions without imposing our own belief systems, what we think they should do, unless they ask for it. Is often what I teach people to do is, if they're unaware, if they don't know how to do this, is like in a couple system where the one partner is more logical and pragmatic, they need to ask the partner, do you want me to give a solution or do you want me to listen to you as you test it? If you're unsure and you see someone really, really upset, you need to ask, okay, is this what you're needing from me? Do you need my ear? Do you need my presence? Or do you actually need me to help you solve this problem? They might need it towards the end, but in the beginning, it's definitely emotion regulation. Now, the last component that I spoke about in my last video that I wanted to address is boundaries within our own frame and what we are able to give. It's so, so important to really navigate this and understand what it is. What's our limits? Is if someone phones you and you've had a rough morning and you've maybe been up with a baby all night, or you had a fight with your partner, or you're going into a strategy meeting and it's just so, you're not in the right frame of mind. There's a lot of people will feel bad to say no. They will feel so terrible to just say, I'm not in the right frame of mind. They'll just listen. So they're not fully available or present, which is not good for that person. They need an available person. Secondly, the person on the receiving end of possibly the brain dump or the emotion regulation has their own things, and they may be irritated or resentful because they're like, this person get to the point? I need to move on. I need to go see my baby or speak to my boss, or I need to submit an assignment to a lecturer, whatever the story is that person needs to really, really be conscious about what you are able to give in that present moment. Is you are able to and should put a boundary and say, right now is not a good time, but I do want to be there for you. How about 5:30? Right? Is firstly you suspending and you're not saying no immediately. You are going to attend to it, but at a time when you are more available, when you can attend to this person, which is what they need. They need somebody available. Often, just hearing that they will speak to somebody is enough. It's more than enough. Is if, like in psychotherapy circles, if we can't see a client immediately, we'll tell them, I can't see you immediately, can I refer you? And if they want to wait, just the booking to see you will regulate them and contain them until they speak to you. Okay. Then the last aspect about boundary system and what you're able to give and holding for another person is for you not to become a repeated regulator for somebody. Because that's a separate video we're going to have to delve into. You don't want to be a rescuer for someone or to be a sounding board for somebody that possibly needs a lot of self-regulating, where they don't know how to do it by themselves. You need to create relationships where you are available to hear and love people with empathy, but there is a line as to when you start feeling drained and that the person's not taking what you're saying in. So say, for example, someone is coming from an abusive background and they're coming out from an abusive relationship, but they keep on going back. Is if you're telling them after you empathically say, that must be really hard and I'm sorry you feel that way, but they're choosing to go back to the partner, you need to hold them accountable and say, like we said in the self-sabotage video, I think you're standing in your own way and I don't have the tools to help you. Maybe you should see a professional. That's loving kindness as well. Remember that boundaries are absolutely needed with empathy, because if we have no boundaries, then it becomes our problem. Then we become one with that person's whole issue and the entire pain narrative. But they actually need you to be as distant emotionally as from the problem as possible, but close to them in providing as open, reliable, and non-judgmental space as possible. If you'd like to see more of this type of content, please comment below, or you can send a private message on Instagram. But thank you so much for all the engagement. Loving to hear all the topics you guys want to hear about. All the best and good luck.